Good morning everyone. Today I'm going to show you how to make a cotton lap-app cover and an ironing lap-app cover for the lap-app adjustable table. First thing you do is you take your cotton piece that's pre-cut and the template that I gave you, and you center the template on the piece of cotton. And using your steam iron, you might want to put the little fingertips on to protect your fingers, just depends on how good you are. Go ahead and just fold down, press down the straight edges, like that. And then this is where you really can kind of use the fingertip things. And then you just use the fingertips to kind of draw the rounded corner in around. And then you turn and you repeat for all 4 rounded corners of the cotton cover. I'll just hold it for a second or two. I find the more steam you use, the quicker it sets. Then carefully take the template out, and I like to go back over and just kind of press it down a little bit. I think it makes it easier when you're feeding it under the sewing machine. It's not trying to pop up at you. Like that. Okay, now we're ready to sew down the casing that we just folded over at the iron with the template. And basically you just put it on your machine. I start on a straight edge. I'm going to leave a little opening for the elastic to go in, and I'm just going to sew your basic 5/8 seam that you use with any garment sewing project that you would be doing. Just ease it around the corner. I use my fingers to hold down those little gathers that we made. Around another corner. Remember, I'm using contrasting colors so you can see it, but you're going to pick the thread that best matches the fabric. And you're going to leave a little gap that you're going to be able to put the elastic through. And you're going to take it back to the ironing board. And at this point, you're going to iron on the batting. Now, there's 2 kinds of batting. For the cotton cover, you're going to use the fusible fleece that has no paper on it. And you can see it has 2 sides. One has the little glue dots on it, and one does not. You're going to center the batting on the little piece you just sewed with the glue dots facing down. And you're going to press, and I like to press from both sides. Again, a lot of steam works really well. If you're having trouble, the directions say you can use a damp press cloth, and that helps. I find just going both ways with a lot of steam and a lot of heat, which is a contrast from when we get to the ironing one. You don't want to use a ton of heat there because it will cause damage to the fabric. But this one, hot and steamy, is the best. Okay, now we're ready to sew the pockets. So you're going to take this little piece, rectangular piece. It's 3.5 by 10 inches. You're going to fold it in half, and you're going to sew on the 3 sides. Of course, you're not going to sew on the fold. You're going to leave an opening on one of the long sides to turn it inside out. For this, you use a 1/4 inch seam or the edge of your pressure foot. I back stitch up at the top of the folds, but for the other places, I just run off the edge. Now here's where I'm going to leave a little opening. Leave a little space. And I don't worry about back stitching there. I do back stitch at the fold. Now you're going to trim this up. I like to cut off the corners, and I just trim close to my stitch line. I don't trim where my opening is, I just sort of avoid that area. And then trim close up there. So it looks kind of like that. Then I turn it inside out. Thinking I didn't quite leave that. Probably if I left it a little bigger, it would have been a little easier. And in your kit, there's a little tool that looks like this. This works really nice for gently just getting up in there and bringing those corners out. You have to be careful. I have to admit, I've poked a few straight through by not being gentle. But you can use that little tool to get a nice little point. And what you do is then you're going to press it, folding in that little part. Oops. This guy could be a little bit pointier, I guess. Okay, that's good. And then you take the part where the fold is, not the seam part, the fold part, and you're going to fold it down 1 inch. I've gotten to the point I can do this with my eyeballs. I don't need to measure it. And you just press that down to make a little cup. Okay, you bring this little guy back to the sewing machine, and you're going to stitch very close to that folded edge. I don't worry about back stitching. I just run it straight across. Now you're ready to put the pocket on the cover that you made. Now it needs to be a 1/2 inch down and a 1/2 inch side from the side where the batting is, straight with the top. So you kind of just, you can measure it. You can kind of feel where the batting is. Sort of fold it back like that. And I kind of eyeball it. You can measure it. You can pin it if you want. I've done so many of these, I'm kind of the point I can just hold it with my finger, but whatever makes you feel most comfortable. And then you're going to stitch a U shape around, leaving of course the top opening. And you do need to back stitch at the beginning and the end, because people are going to put their little scissors and seam rippers in these pockets, so they are going to get some pretty heavy use. And you're just going to stitch and turn. Of course, when you use thread that matches, it's not going to look so awful. Back up this side, back stitch, and cut off. And of course, at the end, you're going to clip any little threads that are poking out at the end. Okay, for the last step, and that is to put the elastic in. The elastic is 21 inches, and I find this little tool, it's called a bodkin, is the most efficient and effective way to get this in. What you do is you put the little teeth on the end of your elastic, squeeze it, then you slide this little ring down, and it will hold the elastic in. And then you just feed it through. All the way around. Of course, make sure you don't lose the other end. Because it's so frustrating when you lose the end, then you have to pull all the way through. And you bring that little guy out. Okay, because I do these assembly line, I like to sit on the couch and do all the elastic. And want to keep the elastic flat, so it's flat in the casing. I just put a little pin in to hold it till I get to my sewing machine, because I'm doing all of this part together. And then I'm going to take it to the machine, and then I'm going to put it under my machine. I like to pull my pin out here because Murphy's Law, I will run the pin over and break a needle. And I back stitch 3 times and find that that's good enough. Then you just, sure you know how to do this, you pull it in, make it disappear, and then I just stitch the closing. Stitch it closed. I don't worry about back stitching. I just overlap at the beginning and I overlap at the little end. Distribute my gathers evenly. And then I'm going to go clip any little threads from the pocket and the cover that are done. Are sticking off. When you get the covers all done and you've trimmed all your threads, which I haven't done, I'm trying to rush here, but you're going to go through and just make them not look so. And again, when you use the appropriate color thread, it doesn't look so ugly. But I wanted you to be able to see. Then you'll notice there's pieces of cardboard in your kit. So you start and you just put it on there, and then you put the next one on top of this, and you can get about 10 on one piece of cardboard. And what this does, this just keeps them nice and flat so they don't get all wrinkly and they don't take up a ton of space. So that is the cotton cover with the pocket. Now I'm going to show you how to do the ironing cover, which is basically very similar to the cotton cover, except it doesn't have a pocket. Take your little template, same template, center it, do the same little step, fold down your straight edges. Now this is where, if you haven't used the little thimble things, the thermotips, you're going to need it, because this fabric absorbs the heat and it gets really, really hot. Go ahead and you, I guess I must have fat fingers. Gather it in like this. You know, good enough. Steam it. And just turn your little template around. Get everybody settled down. I used to baste these and then draw them up and press them and then pull the basting out, and it's like, oh, there has to be an easier way, and this is definitely much quicker. Pull it out. Again, I think it goes through the machine so much quicker and easier if I flatten it out. Just one little thing like that. Okay, now we're ready to take it to the machine. Okay, same as for the cotton cover, 5-inch seam, leaving a little opening. Start on the straight edge. Go around. For whatever reason, the ironing covers are a little easier. The corners seem to lay flatter than the cotton covers. So this part seems to take a little less work getting it through the machine. It just kind of goes. Again, when you get around to the end, you're going to leave a little space that you're going to insert your elastic. And again, I'm using black so it'll show and you can see, but you're going to use the gray thread that's in the kit. Take it back to the ironing board. And you're ready to apply the batting for this one. Now this batting is Insubrite. It's an insulated batting, and if you look at it, it has silver in it, and that's one way you can remember which batting goes with which. The silver batting goes with the silver fabric. And I've applied Heat and Bond Light to it, so you're going to peel off the paper to expose the coated sticky stuff. Put it down. Now this is the one I mentioned a little earlier. You don't want a ton of hot heat, because if you do, it's going to all wrinkle up the fabric here. So you're going to give it a little, quick little, and I'm not even pressing down too hard. This stuff, whereas you have to work at the other one, this one you're just going to give it a quick little, keep that ironing moving quick. and it'll stick really easily.